Okay, so I'm going to start off with this. And this is something new and this is something different because why not? Why not do something new and different? So here you go. And don't laugh at me. Oh, you can laugh at me. I don't care. Kol od balevav penima nefesh Yehudi homia ulafate mizrak kadima ayin letzion Sophia od lo avda tikvatenu ha-tikva bashanot alpayim liodem hovshi be'artzenu Eretz Zion Yerushalayim liodem hovshi be'artzenu Eretz Zion Yerushalayim. And I've wanted to sing that for such a long freaking time. I memorized that song when I was a kid. I was punished for something. And so I had to sit in my room for all day or something. And religious school, we had a notebook of stuff that was sitting in my cupboard or in my shelf. And so since I was sitting there doing nothing, I just read the transliteration and I just memorized the Israeli national anthem. So that right there, what I just sung was the Israeli national anthem. Now, what unlocked that memory? Well, I'm watching Netflix and Adam Sandler, he is very, very Jewish. And he did a movie. He was in a movie written by a lady, I forget her name. And it was called, You Are So Not Invited to My Bhat Mizvah. And I'm just like, okay, I saw it yesterday and I was like, I don't know if I want to watch it yet. I don't know. It looked very Jewish. Not saying that I'm offended by it, but no, I mean, it just looked very Jewish. I'm like, okay, do I really want to watch this? I don't know. So I watched it yesterday. Or so it was the day before that I was thinking, oh, okay. So I watched it yesterday. And I'm like, oh my God, this reminds me of Sunday school. It reminds me of the people that we used to hang out with at the congregation over there in Los Gatos. It reminded me of just so much. It locked so many memories of just Sunday school, the food, the prayers. And I'm telling you, I'm not religious. But I'll tell you, when you're raised in Jewish religion, where there's a lot of singing, amazing food, awesome people, and then having to also be programmed for this society, and then remembering what song I memorized. And I don't sing. I don't go out there and just sing. I'm not a singer. But I'll tell you, the Jewish hymns are so beautiful. They're so haunting. They're so beautiful. And that's why I posted those YouTube videos of Barbara Streisand and Debbie Friedman. Actually, I think we met Debbie Friedman, who is a Jewish folk singer, who died, I think, in 2023, I think, or maybe died before that. I forget when she passed away. But we sung her songs, and they are so beautiful. I mean, going to Sunday night or Friday night services I didn't love it. I wasn't like enthralled with going to Friday night services. The thing that I looked forward to was the oneg and all the food afterwards. But the songs, the hymns were, so traditional, and we sung it every Friday night. So I couldn't help but memorize all the songs. So listening to or watching that movie with Adam Sandler, You Are So Not Invited to My Bhat Mizvah, and it's a whole coming of age type of movie. I was just like, oh my gosh. And so my sister, she got Bhat Mizvah. I never did, because I already had issues with school and everything else. So that was just too much stress on me. But my way of getting my Bhat Mizvah, my way of having a Bhat Mizvah, so I didn't have it at 13 years old. I'm having it at 50, and I just sang the Israeli national anthem. So that's my Bhat Mizvah. That's my coming of age. That's my symbol of maturity and whatever else. So yeah, and I'm actually pretty proud that I did that. So I figured I'd kind of change it up the beginning of it, because I was looking at those YouTube videos and I'm reading the transliterations. And I even wrote it down. So I made sure except some of them I forgot some of the words, but I even wrote it down. So I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna sing this and I'm gonna see what it sounds like. And I don't care if people laugh at me, because at this point, what are we doing when we're at home and we're not out there gallivanting? We expand our brain. We do things we haven't done before. We just work on our inner selves and remember things and put aside the bad shit and develop the good shit, whatever that is, and become better people. And that's really, when you think about the Jewish religion, they are trying to help community as well as help themselves. What's a mitzvah? What are the good deeds that we do? But also, what are the good deeds we do for ourselves? How do we work on ourselves? It's not just what's good for everybody else. What's good for ourselves that isn't so selfish that we are destructive to other people? And so I'm even taking the Jewish religion, and even, because I was converted as a child, to another level of immortality, and not so much emphasis on the family, though I know that is part of the Jewish religion, is the family and coming of age and boyfriends and girlfriends and sex and all that shit. Okay, I'm not trying to be puritanical. You have to have that kind of thing in nation building. So there's got to be a balance of both. Well, I'm taking the other side of it. Well, once you have become the best person, you are the best person, the best person in your genetic line, the strongest person, and you don't have to have children. You don't even have to have a husband or a wife. Okay, you can develop yourself and entertain yourself and teach yourself and keep yourself alive. And so that takes it further. But when people are raising children to become that, they have to go through a process. And there's got to be parents that are willing to go through that process with that child and get them to where they're not going to be self-destructive at some point. And so that's my contribution to Israel and the Jewish religion and the Rosicrucians. That I understand where it needs to start, because if we have, let's say, pretend we have 300 million people in this world and only 5 of us are the best copy, well, there's got to be somebody procreating somewhere, and they have to go through the process that isn't so destructive and traumatic. And so that's why I'm advocating that mothers release her demons. Mothers, stop getting into traumatic situation. Mothers, respect her body, her mind, her spirit. Mothers, don't self-destruct. Mothers, stop sacrificing yourself for your daughters. Mothers, respect yourself. Because how are we going to have an amazing, strong population who is self-respecting if the mothers don't get their shit together, get their acts together? Okay? And so I posted, you are so not invited to my Bhat Mizvah, Netflix 2023. Memory unlocked. And I said, thanks, Adam Sandler. So when I just sang that song, I sang the Hebrew version, or the Hebrew version. I'm not so much Hebrew. Yeah, I guess. No, it's the transliteration version. Because I never learned Hebrew. My sister did. And so the translation to the Hatikvah, the Israeli national anthem is, as long as within our hearts the Jewish soul sings, as long as forward to the east, to Zion look the eye. Our hope is not yet lost. It is 2,000 years old, to be free people in our land, the land of Zion and Jerusalem. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there who are very resistant to Zionists, who are resistant to the Jewish religion, resistant to Israel, and of course, what's going on over there in the Gaza Strip and all that. And put that aside for a minute, because let me tell you, both sides have equal contribution to the issues that are going on over there. And until somebody just stops with whatever, until that person stops throwing rocks and that person lobs grenades and bombs, it's going to keep continuing, and it will until who knows when. But put that aside for a minute. Now we're here in America, and we're trying to develop a better world, okay? And there's so many mixes of races and religions and cultures. And how do we all get along without being so resistant and intolerant to each other, okay? Well, you got to work on yourself. That's really what it has to be. Because if you're out there distracted by somebody else and taking on somebody else's traumatic distractions, because that's what people do when they're out there, when they're traumatized, they are distracting themselves with self-destructive type of things. Well, when I was at home, even when I was a kid, I was having to self-reflect. This last 3 years from the whole pandemic shit, I was sitting at home. I didn't have to, but I was also releasing my demons. And every single time the environment shifted and I still had predisposed issues and I didn't fully understand all the frequencies were also part of it, being around people at that point is not going to happen, because I didn't know exactly where the actual instability came from. You can only blame people for your predisposed issues and your sicknesses for only so long. Eventually you have to realize that when we're in climate change and it's steadily becoming hotter and hotter and more unstable, that's going to wake up your demons. Though, yes, you can make some correlation that you caught somebody's microbes, but I'll tell you, it is the changing of the season that's what's causing people's immune systems to wake up and try to push out the demons. And so then being at home for the last 3 years, I couldn't help but then work on myself. I couldn't help but release the demons. I couldn't help but write about stuff that bugged me. I couldn't help but just learn things that I didn't know about, that I made assumptions about. When you're at home and you're studying, whether the internet or a book or watching YouTube videos or watching Netflix, and it's not just for entertainment and you're under the influence, no, it's like you're trying to learn about yourself and the world. And so I said, not everybody needs to be out there distracted by everything. I have been trained to be at home and study everything and learn everything and understand everything, not just for the sake of studying, but to understand why the world is going where it's going, where we came from, and where we're going and why. I don't use Facebook to get attention or sell anything. I use Facebook to learn about the world I live in, study the world I live in, understand the world I live in. I've had people comment to me, you shouldn't be at home so much, sitting on your ass watching TV all the time. I mean, I wasn't offended because they're not a friend of mine on Facebook. They don't know what I do. They don't follow my information. So they assume I just sit home and just watch Netflix all day and eat bonbons and have sex occasionally when my husband comes home and cooks some dinner. No, believe me, it's way far from that. But people only want to see what they want to see. They don't want to see anything more than that because it's more than that they can handle. Because then they'd have to reflect on their life. What are they doing with their life? Where are they going with their life? And so, and I'm saying, hey, I wrote 3 books and I'm working on myself and I'm trying to change the fucking world and everything else. That's a lot to compare yourself to someone. So you don't want to be bragging about that. So I just let them say what they say, They think I'm watching TV and that's it, and drinking beer and eating bonbons. Hey, that's fine. Excuse me, sorry. But no, it's way more than that. They just don't understand what I'm doing because they were never taught to be at home. They were never taught to face their inner child and mature their inner child. And so, singing that song of Hatikva, as a child, I was sitting in my room, I was thinking about some transgression I did. The transliteration of the national anthem of Israel was right next to me. So I just studied and memorized the Israeli national anthem. It was the way to pass the time, to just sit and study something. Excuse me, I'm drinking iced coffee. And I did this quite a lot. I would sit and read the dictionary, read a bunch of books, encyclopedias, because when you don't have any other distractions and you're sitting in your room and there's no TV, the VCR and the TV is out there in the family room, and there's nothing in my room except for a dresser, a desk, a bed, blinds, and a few pictures to remind me of, where I'm going. And that's it. There was one picture, there's an Alice in Wonderland picture. There's another picture of Georgia O'Keeffe, white shell in red or something. And that's an artist out of Santa Fe, New Mexico. And there was a picture that said, that Mother Earth and Father Sky meeting, joining one another, all is beautiful indeed. So there's that picture. Okay, and Alice in Wonderland was a very detailed, that picture of Alice in Wonderland was a very detailed picture of where, I guess, the maze or something in the Queen of Hearts kingdom, and you could see where she was hidden. She had little 2 legs that were hidden somewhere, so you could actually find where Alice in Wonderland was. So yeah, there's a lot of programming going on in that bedroom that I had. A lot of programming. Okay? I want you to know that that's what the system is trying to do, is program people to be an amazing person in the future. And though you may have heard so many crazy things about the programming that have been going on, yes, there's some crazy shit. You've seen Anna Nicole Smith, Britney Spears, some of that, like Paris Hilton. So they're influencing people in different ways to do whatever. And they also influence people to rebel or assimilate to whatever programming. But as a child, whoever you're raised by the most, who you hate and love the most, is going to be the most influential. So you better have the person who you love and hate the most be fucking smart, so goddamn academic and so amazing and so, intelligent and intellectual. So even though you rebel against that, at some point you'll come back to it, and that will be your saving grace. But if people in your world are not very academic, not very extremely intelligent, very distracted, potentially even, violent and other stuff, then these kids, where do they have to go? Okay? If these kids are so that's what I'm saying, is that if you are a parent right now with like 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds and 1-year-olds, and you have the whole world ahead of them, and they still have to release their demons, there's so much you can do to instill the joy of words, okay? The joy of studying, the joy of learning. Okay, so I'm not talking to those who already are too far gone and have to pull themselves out of a hole and retrain their body, mind, and spirit. You may be too far gone. I'm not talking to you, but I am talking to those who are relatively mature, who have young children, and know that those children have your predisposed issues. And so you have a lot to come back from, not only having to get them to find a way to become relatively self-sufficient, but they also release their demons. And how do you instill the joy of learning and tolerance and understand diversity in 18 years, along with them releasing their demons? So what I did was I'd read stuff and whatever, and I did this quite a lot. I would sit and read the dictionary, read a bunch of books, encyclopedias, because we don't have any other direct distractions, and you're just sitting in your room with no TV, video games, or radio, just me and the words. I would then just gravitate towards the words. And I would have to sit there because I couldn't leave my room until dinner time. That's a conditioning to study. And that does start out in childhood. That's why I'm able to just sit in my house day after day and read, watch documentaries and movies, not so much for the entertainment, but more for the message of humanity, studying the human condition. No, I don't watch like How High or continuously Pineapple Express or all the violent movies. No, I watch things that there's a message. There's watching how a family operates, even how sometimes criminals operate, but not too much, because I don't watch too much action videos. But it's more about the interaction between people and couples and sons and daughters and wives and whatever. And so we were given so many books to read, and if we had a punishment for violence and rule, we had to sit in our room and read. Sometimes not even allowed to read, just to sit in our room and condition ourselves to sit still. And then also read and learn. That's conditioning a child to be successful as an adult, so you don't have to rely on other people to entertain you. Okay? And so imagine you have everything on the internet. You have games, you have books, you have encyclopedias and all these different and conspiracy shit. What are you feeding your brain? What are you feeding your children's brain? That's really more the point. And so, no, we were not meditating. We were not doing breathing exercise, and we did not have any Nintendo. We didn't even have cable or Atari or anything. We had a VCR, VHS to be exact, which is why I'm not too concerned about the lockdowns. I've had my fun out there. I've traveled all over, not even everywhere, but enough places to get a glimpse of all types of cultures. I've been to the oldest European country called Portugal. I've been to China. I lived on the island of Hawaii. Okay, I've been to Canada, and I've been mostly across the U.S. And I did land in Incheon, South Korea, on my way to China. But I did go to North China and South China. Okay, and so I've seen enough for me to be like, okay, we went to Portugal when we were kids. Not Portugal, I'm sorry, Puerto Rico when we were kids. Because my dad had worked on the water system out there in the 80s. Okay, before it was really open. and so yeah, so I'm pretty well traveled, I guess you would say. And so I don't have that hankering to be out there all the time seeing stuff. And so I can now go back to my roots and just sit at home and read and learn about more stuff. and develop my brain, develop my writing skills, develop, I'm not saying I'm trying to be a singer, but the fact that I'm able to carry a tune a little bit, even if it's just a hymn like that I just did a couple of minutes ago, hey, I'm fine with that. Because that is a type of expression. Let me tell you, singing is a major expression to release emotion, to release stuff, release memories. And it's a nice feedback loop because let me tell you, those hymns and songs in the Jewish religion are so haunting and so beautiful that you forget all the politics around the religion and you just get lost in the music. And that's really, I recommend that you guys listen to some of the Jewish music, not so much you can get brainwashed, okay? But you enjoy something different, culturally different, that is so beautiful and haunting, that has also a message of hope. Like I said, you don't want to live on hope alone. But that is the message of Hatikva, the Israeli national anthem, is because they have a home now. They're not just a wandering Jew in the desert. Now they have a home, and now they got to fight for their home. And people don't like how they are fighting for their home. And okay, it's what it is. I mean, I guess Palestine, they could figure out their home, and I'm sorry if that's the war that's going on, Palestine versus Israel. But at this point, people are going to have to fight for their homeland and let the best man win, whoever it is. And if someone's more strategic in gaining market share, then they got to be more strategic. And if it's by force, well, shit happens by force. I'm not excusing any crimes against humanity, but I'll tell you, the humans have been doing crimes against humans for fucking centuries. And even today, out there in the population, humans do crimes against each other virtually. They do crimes against each other physically. And again, that's not excusing, but that's something that obviously the New World Order knows is wrong. And now they're trying to breed it out of the people. But how you don't want to play World War II again and say, okay, you deserve to live, but you don't. And so they let people take themselves out. They let people volunteer to take themselves out and avoid taking everyone around them out and give people the choice. And that's what I'm doing. Is I can't convert you guys to understand where I'm coming from. I can only give you a choice on how you can deal with your symptoms, what you've been doing to your body with the remedies and the surgeries and all the herbs and extracts. And you make a choice. I don't care what you do. I already saved myself. I'm just continuously working on myself. But you all have the option, if you decide to stay home and stay safe and not get so distracted, and maybe reconsider your career in the selling of the supplements and all the herbs and extracts, and maybe even get out of the medical system if you're in that. But again, that's something you're going to have to figure out by yourself. And so now it's time to study. It's time to work on my inner self. But the system is going to force you guys having to be by yourself at home, maybe not so much by yourself, on the population because of the whole lockdowns. They're probably going to happen. And then when they start doing the whole 15-minute cities, well, holy shit. I mean, okay. Many of you will resist it because you didn't have the conditioning to be on your own, in your room, in your house as a child. And so you can't help but resist. And then I hope you don't have to learn any hard lessons. But the time to be at home and work on yourself is being given to you as a gift to and from your government. If you can find a way to get out from under the pressure of your friends and family. By the way, I chose not to be Bhat Mizvah because I had too many issues going on back then. I was already having a hard time in school and everything else during that time. That was just a more unnecessary stress that I didn't need at home. But my sister did go to Hebrew school, and she did get Bhat Mizvah, and she's pretty fucking awesome, and she learned Hebrew. And so I sung their Israeli national anthem, and then you can watch those videos. And I'm just going to read this. Hatikva. Israel's national anthem was sung by Enrico Macias, words written in 1886 by Naphtali Herz-Imber, an English poet originally from Bohemia. The melody is written by Samuel Cohen, an immigrant from Moldavia. Cohen actually based the melody on a musical theme found in Bedřich Smetan's Moldau. History. The title of the national anthem, Hatikva, means the hope. It was written by the Naphtali Herz-Imber, 1856 to 1909, who moved to Palestine in 1882 from Galicia. The melody was arranged by Samuel Cohen an immigrant from Moldavia, from a musical theme in Smetana's Moldova that is partly based in a Scandinavian folk song. Hatikva expresses the hope of the Jewish people that they would someday return to the land of their forefathers, as prophesied in the Hebrew Bible. The Jewish people were exiled from Israel in 70 CE by the Roman army led by Titus, who destroyed the temple in Jerusalem. During the 2,000 years of exile, the Jewish people said special daily prayers for return to Israel while facing the east in the direction of Jerusalem. They celebrate the holiday according to Hebrew seasons and calendar. Zion is synonymous with Israel and Jerusalem. And so, now that I didn't know. I mean, the Jewish people were exiled from Israel in 70 CE by the Roman army led by Titus. Who destroyed the temple in Jerusalem. Wow, that was like 2,000 years ago of exile. Wow. Okay, so there you go. That's why there is such a war going on, okay? And so then with the Jewish religion, then it was always the mother. That's what you're seeing right now in America. Yes, we are a Judeo-Christian society. We have Jews, we have Christians, Muslims, Semitics and all that. And so the mother is the most influential. The mother is the most influential. She was a SCOBY who set the tone. She developed that kind of culture of destruction in her children, her offspring. So now what am I referring to as far as destruction? Right now we are in a depopulation, a scale down. And it's through the medical holistic energy healing world, as well as lack of evolution and resistance. Okay? And so when I said yesterday, when I was talking about how, the choices that women have, and I said those choices, then it reminded me of fermentation. And when the mommy and me groups, the holistic girls, were selling the SCOBY or giving SCOBYs to each other, they were giving each other the mother to develop a fermentation. And so the kombucha, the mother, even the mother in the J juice, that's what sets the tone. When you have a specific flavor of the J juice, the mother sets that tone. And if you keep taking that mother, parts of that mother, and putting it in different jars, you will have the same culture, the same taste. It could be tangy, it could be sweet, it could be whatever. Okay? So if you wanted to have a different culture with a different taste, because you didn't like the taste of that specific fermentation, then you would just drink it all up and develop a new mother who then gives you a different culture, not so much different, but a different taste. Because there's so many factors that would make a culture taste a specific way. And so the mother, the queen bee, so if you have a group of people and there's one person who's very influential that will cast you out or bring you in, she sets the tone. The lady in the house sets the tone. The queen bee in a group of friends sets the tone. And I can tell when I'm around certain people that I had a feeling that really didn't like me. I knew that queen bee set the tone and I was going to be miserable until I left that situation. And I did. Okay? And so every woman sets the tone of how she gets treated, how her children get treated, how her family gets treated, and how her society gets treated. And so it's always the mother. So then, now you got to think about now why we have to reconsider having children right now until these mothers release their demons. When a mother is pregnant, what is her child incubating in? Someone answered amniotic fluid. Okay, that's a given. Thank you, Rachel. She said that. I deleted her comment because I'm just like, okay, I didn't have to delete it, but I just did. Because I wasn't trying to go there. It was more for my own notes, but it wasn't clear. But I was a little more reactive than not. So it's not like, no offense to Rachel that answered that question. But someone answered amniotic fluid. Okay, that's a given. Now this is going to be interesting because now we have been so infiltrated by the medical holistic system, by all the psychedelics from the 1960s, all the psychedelics from the 19th, mushrooms and LSD and heroin and meth and cannabis. Okay? So when a mother is pregnant and she has so much trauma, she has domestic violence, she's been through war, she's been through so much shit, she's been bullied. Okay, she's lost people to violent events. So when a mother is pregnant, what is her child incubating in? Someone answered amniotic fluid. Okay, that's a given. If that mother took a bunch of drugs, that baby is incubating in the drug residuals, if not the drug itself. If that mother has trauma, that child has taken on traumatic genetics. If that mother is incubating in allergies, cancer, disease, chronic illness, autoimmune disorders, that child is incubating in disease. If that mother holds so much trauma inside, that baby is exposed to that kind of trauma. The amniotic fluid is full of trauma. If that mother is an alcoholic, that child has fetal alcohol syndrome. And so what is that? Fetal alcohol syndrome could be ADD, ADHD, underweight, extremely underweight, and probably very sad. The mother is incubating in so much disease until she releases those demons, her offspring will be plagued with the same issues. And when soon-to-be mothers dabble in herbs and selling them with supplements, she's polluting her uterus. That's the mother's curse. Okay? And so we are advocating everybody out there have children, and people have no idea what the fuck they are developing. Not only do they have the mother, whether she's 20 or 40, has years behind her of so much dabbling in different drugs, different alcohols, different prescription drugs, illicit drugs, herbal remedies. And so, yeah, we have so much diversity out there, but you know how much suffering there is when that child has antibiotic resistance and it wants to push out the drugs and all of those foreign entities and those poisons out of the body. And then the mother doesn't know any better. And the medical holistic system don't really know any better, or they do, but they're not going to tell you. I don't know. And they keep pushing the genie back in the bottle and keeps compounding the torture of that demon inside that child and that parent and that everybody. And so now let's bring it back to fucking basics now. Okay? So the whole J world is like, once you release all those demons, but now I don't even want to have a child. I don't want to get pregnant. I'm probably the best specimen to get pregnant because I released my demons. But I don't want to be pregnant. That's the irony. It's those that have been traumatized, that have been polluted by the medical holistic system, that have a hankering to be pregnant and have children. Now that's a conundrum, right? And so when you finally reach that point, women, when you release those demons and they're not plaguing you anymore, you're not going to want to have a husband or a wife. You're not going to be really sexual. You're going to be working on yourself. You'll be self-sufficient, self-entertaining. Yeah, kids are cute, but they're a crapshoot. And you don't, now, as you are aware of how shit works, you have no idea what kind of person that child is. But then you have an idea by looking at the parents. But then you even know what the parents are like, because you don't always know what goes on and lurks in the hearts of parents, especially if you don't know them very well. And then you're like, okay, so so now I'm giving the gift to the system that there can be people who don't have to die, and who are not extremely sexual, who may look like a man or a woman, not so much like a hybrid where you can't tell the difference between genders, and they can still stay alive and be immortal and be a peaceful, contributing member of society who has something to offer to the world without taxing the system and causing the system to develop more services to manage their disease. That's leaving such a very small carbon footprint. You realize I leave a very small carbon footprint in what I'm doing? I do my internet stuff, I write stuff, I eat food. I pretty much, I don't exercise too much, but I don't really need to. I manage my own disease and release the demons and poop and eat food and watch some stuff to entertain and also educate myself. And occasionally I will go out and use, the services. Maybe my husband and I will drive someplace, but not too far. So I leave a very small carbon footprint, very small. That's what the system wants, because that's the whole green shit. What is your carbon footprint? And when you are consuming disposable items, you're leaving such a huge carbon footprint. You are using up so much resources that you have absolutely no intention of replenishing. And so that's what the J world has to offer to the New World Order, to my government, to fucking society, to society. And so that's pretty awesome that we are going to give people a chance to release their demons if they set themselves up correctly. But I'm telling you, if you're living in Florida, now you have to survive the hurricanes and the tornadoes. If you're living on the coasts, you got to survive the climate change and the devastating storms are going to be happening. They're already happening. There's another tropical storm coming from the south through the Gulf that's going to hit like the Florida Panhandle. And if you're on the coast thinking that you're living the dream because you're living a vacation spot, it's not going to. Remember what happened to Fort Myers? It got completely decimated. No, the system is getting rid of all the relaxation places. We're now down to back to basics. You were given the latitude to develop, and you were rewarded with vacation spots, and people took advantage of that, and they just became, under the influence and drugged out and criminals and vacation spots, and that's all they did was trade drugs and party it up, and that's pretty much it. Maybe they did a job, contributed to the economy that way. But now that we don't need so much, the infrastructure has been built and it's been streamlined and simplified. And we're not going into the gas and the oil so much. Also, everything is electricity. Electricity burns cleaner, and it can be actually even more devastating on some level when it comes to people throwing lightning bolts at people. Well, that's where we're in, and we don't need so many people. We don't need so many coal miners or whatever. I don't know if does coal mining contribute to electricity? So you gotta know that's where the world's going. And you gotta figure out where the safest place is. And so when I put that map, the Navy map of where probably the most safest place is, but then you still can't escape the tornadoes that happen north of me. Even in the Great Lakes area, tornadoes and floods. And you still have to survive them. And if you have to keep starting over again because you're in an area that got hit by a few tornadoes, or find some place where where I live, I'll tell you, where that storm came through, it came over the last couple of days, it came over from the north, and it was going over Lake Erie, and it was creeping over, or it was all the way up over there up in Michigan, like Detroit area. Okay, and it creeps over, and then it fizzled out right where it got to my area. It pretty much broke apart when it got to my area, right below the snow belt, below Cleveland. Well, if you're living up there in Michigan, up there near Canada, and that's probably where some of the storms are going to creep up and start doing devastation. I'm not saying that my place is the best place, but it might be better than most. I don't know. It's very hard to say. And so be prepared to lose everything. And so I was trying to figure out a couple of years ago how I was going to talk about Chris Watts and Shanann Watts, that family annihilation, and it's happening more often. Okay, and so the whole Chris Watts case, and then the Jodi Arias, they kind of came back to back, and that was within the last couple decades. But we have, I guess, over there up in Greene, Ohio, or Uniontown, Ohio, a family annihilation. And then here in Stark County, we have a family annihilation. And so when I'm trying to advise people publicly, well, maybe reconsider your child going into traditional roles like wife, mother, or something else, or sex demon. Find a way to get out from those type of roles. Find a way to get out from, or groupie. Because I'll tell you, the stress of having to take care of a family, maybe not so much a dog, have a dog, I guess, and you'll have to expect it to die, I guess, in this, so that's why I don't have a dog. I'm not trying to just take in animals and have them die on me, now or later. But now, I mean, the stress of raising a family, the stress of paying for food and insurance, the stress of keeping up with your neighbors and all the play dates and all the school activities, and the stress of the health conditions from what you deem to be poison from that you want to blame, whether the bees or anything else. I'm telling you, men are stressed the fuck out. Men are stressed out because they are being forced into roles they were not prepared to do. And if they were prepared, they were prepared for it in a different world when it wasn't so aggressively stressful and when it wasn't so expensive to have children and to have health insurance and have other types of insurance. And then we have these social climbing mothers who stay-at-home moms because they're raising their kids and they're going to these MLMs and spending thousands and thousands of dollars on MLM stuff so they can sell to their friends and develop a whole network and look like they're successful. But they have to keep buying the stuff and to keep selling stuff and also taking on the debt in order to look like the part that you are a successful upline and that your downline can be just like you if only they did what you did. And so that was an interesting, now we can talk about later on when it's not so raw, how the male has been pigeonholed into just being like a breadwinner and coming second fiddle to the wife, and that he still has to play the part of part breadwinner and kowtow and cater to his aggressively OCD wife who has an autoimmune disorder. So another family annihilation. 5 people found dead in Stark County house. That is so sad. It's happening more and more that families that are killing the whole families and then commit suicide themselves. And someone said, sending prayers to the family members of this family. So above was a comment quote from the Post. Remember that Chris Watts case? He was under so much pressure, and she was a major social climber, putting the whole family in debt so she could capitalize on all of her social capital and exploit her children at the same time. And she did treat her husband like shit. She stepped all over him. She used him. Chris Watts was the mama's boy, and he also kowtowed to his wife. And then he annihilated his whole family when his girlfriend gave him a glimpse of freedom. So he had a girlfriend on the side he met at work. And she was everything to him that his wife was not, because he did not want to be locked down with another baby that's coming. So she was pregnant again. This is her 3rd child. Jesus Christ, right? That's what happens. See, when someone is diagnosed with a condition, and I think she had lupus, and she was very motivated and ambitious. She built homes. I mean, she was very motivated and ambitious in her younger years. And then she got diagnosed with a condition that made her very aggressive and mean and intense, but he still stayed with it. Because remember, when you have a mama's boy, when a mother caters to her son, and he's just a good boy, he didn't do it, he wasn't any problem. That's what his mother said when she did the interviews. He was not a problem child. She never had an issue with him. He never questioned her. He never rebelled against her. He was just a good boy. He went to school and that was it. It doesn't mean just you go to school and you're a good boy that you're going to be able to handle the pressures of raising a family. And so when his mother probably did everything for him, I'm sure she probably worshipped the fuck out of him. Okay? She didn't like Shanann. Well, because Shanann took away her son, her jewel, her crown jewel. And she also saw how Shanann treated him. Of which, when she sees how her son is treated by a wife, she also looks in the mirror and sees how she's treated her son. But maybe not in the same manner, but on some level, yes. Making him very dependent on her. And so he doesn't know how to get out of things correctly. And he never knew how to rebel and stand up for himself. Okay? And so he just takes this, a pressure is building. So Chris Watts was a pressure. He was building up so much pressure, resentment, and stress. And he hides it behind, the smiles and taking part in all the things that she did. Until he meets a woman who promised him a different world, a different life. And she wanted a kid too. If he would have not killed his family and ended up with that girlfriend, he would have been in the same place with more kids. Okay? But anyway, so then he annihilated his whole family when his girlfriend gave him a glimpse of freedom. You see, some men feel trapped by family MLM-oriented ambitious women who use her children as a marketing piece, and her husband is just the other breadwinner and servant when she wants him to be, when it's convenient for her. And so her autoimmune disorders probably influenced her personality to be the way it was, very OCD, extremely aggressive, and intensely manipulative. Granted, he should have never killed his whole family. And I'm not victim blaming, but so many factors lead up to the actual deadly outcome. So many factors. And so this is why we don't want to encourage our girls to go down these roads of family right now, because it's very stressful. And in this environment, health issues and economical instability just adds more stress to the wife and the husband. And the children pay the price, and they are suffering, and they're not very well cared for. And so I said yesterday, please pray for the love of please for the love of your family. Give them a chance to just take care of themselves. Don't pressure them into getting married. Don't pressure them into having children. Don't pressure them into feeling like they need to belong to a bunch of women and men in order to feel accepted. Let them have a job or go to school and give them the time to release their hormonal demons, because their hormones will rule them and get them in trouble. Mothers, you will be the ones to save your daughters and sons from the ultimate hell of hopelessness. And no, it's not going to a doctor and getting antidepressants so they can still take care of the family, and if that's your solution. Okay? The stress of raising a family is even more so during these crazy times. And so I say, hopeful grandmothers, stop pressuring your daughters to have children. Hopeful grandmothers, stop pressuring your daughters-in-laws to have children for you. But the root of it all, the hormones need to be in check. And the pressure of the traditional expectations needs to disappear. And I know people are going to still have kids, or still going to get pregnant, still going to have kids. But since the system knows they can't control people's reproductive areas, really, they can't control that. Because they already built that into our society. They built in the family, they built in the sex, they built in all of that. And so what's the system going to do? Then to find a way to regulate and control that, they will make it very stressful for you to raise a child. They'll make it very stressful to keep a man or keep a woman. They'll make it very stressful for you to survive in this environment, because it will be very expensive. And people's demons are coming to surface after generations of being bred on drugs and alcohol and sex and trauma and war. And now you're seeing the kind of people that come out of that coming from a background of drugs, sex, alcohol, and war in the womb. Okay? And then also nurture what the environments these children are being brought up under. And so, yeah, that's why the internet is a great place to watch people. The internet and Facebook, is a great place to observe the outcomes of our belief systems and actions. And people are suffering exponentially. Oh, they are suffering exponentially. And so if you want to give your kids half a chance, mothers who aren't completely gone, let your kids express their sickness and release, and getting them on all food. And if they have allergies, ask the Cleveland Clinic to help them get over their peanut allergies without treating it, but giving them a little bit of peanut proteins every day, and have the doctor monitor that situation so they can finally be around nuts without going into anaphylactic responses. But it's up to the mother. And I'm telling you, most mothers out there are not willing to do that. But some are. Some will fight for their children's life. Some will fight for their own life. Some will. And some will lay the blame everywhere around them except for themselves. And you can see that on your Facebook as well. But I'll tell you, I had the will and the drive to develop my position of where I'm at today. I had to fight for my position. It didn't come easy. I had to fight the world out there. I had to fight so many things to give me this freedom to express, to develop, and to offer some other road that you can go down that could potentially give you a different outcome than your parents and your friends and your family. And so when you think about the whole blue roofs and the copper that oxidizes and turns, copper turns to blue, and you think about the flags, the red, white, and blue, the color of the flag, the red, the fire, the white, the phlegmatic, the blue, the cool, right? Because that's the copper that absorbs 65 to 80% of the heat of a blue laser. And these colors have meaning, so many different meanings based upon the context. Yeah. Then I was listening a little bit to a podcast on YouTube of this lady I didn't watch the whole thing. This lady wrote 1,000 pages on the corruption and human trafficking and criminal enterprises from way back in the 1940s and on, and still going on today. And then also, along with that, okay, criminal activity and all that, there's the other side of it. So there's people capitalizing on the takedown of a lot of humans as far as the depopulation agenda. And you know that Wall Street's part of that. You know that Wharton College and all these Harvard Business Schools, Stanford Business School, law schools, and all that stuff, they teach the people they teach them all the different algorithms and business sense and some law around it. But then people develop loopholes. They develop strategies to make money by betting against something or betting for something. And there's laws and rules in place to do that. And so then, when you're taking down a lot of people through a depopulation agenda by giving them choices too, you also can find ways to psychologically manipulate them to gamble their life away, gamble their children's lives away, gamble their whole life savings. And so there is that, like the crypto market and a lot of these investments like the mortgage crisis and the Enron and the cooking of the books and inflating stock prices and all this other shit. And so, yeah, that was all part of the takedown. That was all part of just getting market share from people who weren't going to be around anyways in the next, 20 years. And so if you know that 300 million people at least are not going to be around in the next 50 years, you might as well develop this kind of corrupt criminal enterprises that are relatively, they're not lawful, but, they're only unlawful when they finally figure out what's going on. But they allow them to happen at least once, and then they say it's not going to happen again. But they will on some level. They just be dressed up in a new term. Okay, watch The Big Short on Netflix with Ryan Gosling and Steve Carell and Christian Bale. Okay, and so yeah, you're gonna have a repeat of people being tempted to get something for nothing. If they don't pay anything right now for something, and then it goes under, then their house gets taken away, their car gets taken away. I don't know. So that's the thing. So now it's time to understand the games that are being played. They're telling you what games are being played. Now, if you're smart and realize all the psychological games of gambling and the Wall Street and stock market, then you don't play those fucking games. You don't play the games, I'm going to get rich. I'm going to get rich. And I'm just going to gamble my life away and sell something that is going to bankrupt people. I don't know. Maybe you'll learn your lesson. And so anyways, I watched that a little bit of the YouTube video, and she was talking about how Facebook was actually going to take the place of a thing called LifeLog. Okay? And so I'll read this real quick, and then, yeah. LifeLog was a project of the Information Processing Techniques Office of the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, DARPA, of the U.S. Department of Defense, DoD, according to its bid solicitation of pamphlets in 2003. It was to be an ontology, which is about life, based subsystem that captures, stores, and makes accessible the flow of one person's experiences in and interactions with the world in order to support a broad spectrum of assistance, and other system capabilities. The objective of LifeLog concept was to be able to trace the threads of an individual's life in terms of events, states, and relationships. And it has the ability to take in all the subject's experiences, from phone numbers dialed and email messages viewed to every breath taken, steps made, and places gone. So you can imagine all of those trolls out there that are messing with people and crank calling them and sending pizzas and all this other shit, right? You'd really have to be extremely technologically savvy and very calculated to hide whatever you're doing, like literally hide. And it's not just through a VPN, okay? You think a VPN is really going to hide who you are, okay? And so you really have the intention to really terrorize someone if you hide behind so much where they have a really hard time tracing where you are. And if that is your intention in the world, to terrorize people, then you already have issues anyways. Then why are you bugging anyone else out there? You have the issue to terrorize people. But there's people who just don't even understand what the fuck's going on. So they think, oh yeah, I can go and mess with people and do this and do that. Oh no, every keystroke, everything that you've typed in, everything that you're doing is being recorded. I just woke up this morning where I couldn't get into my Facebook unless I confirmed that I have the protective protocols that Facebook keeps recommending to all of us. So I could not, until I went through that little thing where it goes, do you have a 2-password thing, where you have a 2-factor authentication? Do you have a password? And everything was great. I was finally let in because it had already confirmed that I had everything that it required. And I was forced to do that a couple years back. But now that they're linking everything together, what I do on my computer, what I do on my phone, and what I do with my bills, like my bank account, and what I buy on Amazon and Walmart, all of that is being tracked. And I know it. That's why I'm speaking to not only the people out there, but I'm also speaking to the powers that be, what I'm contributing to your society, because I'm not the leader of any society. I'm just a member and a contributor to the society. I don't want to take away from society. I want to add to society. And so the whole J world of me learning shit and evolving is my contribution to the world that they are trying to develop, that isn't so violent and intolerant, full of entitled people who think there's no ramifications for their choices. Oh, there is. So yeah. So I wanted to give you kind of a different transmission today with a little bit of song, because that movie from Adam Sandler was just such a memory unlock. And I'll tell you, I have some good memories of Sunday school. I have great memories from some of the holidays. I do. Not everything was bad, but I'll tell you, being different, being raised differently, it has its own hell. When you want to be like everybody else and you want to be normal, and there is no fucking way I'll ever be like everybody else. That's something to come to terms with. And it's also a gift if you can handle it. And that's how I was raised, was to be completely fucking different. And I finally accepted it. And I've accepted being on my own with it. And it's a freedom that I can just say what I want within reason. I can sing if I want. Not that I'm going to be singing, believe me, I'm not doing that. But I really wanted to show you that I did memorize the Israeli national anthem. And I did it as a kid. Because it wasn't like I was forced to, but that was what was going on. When your kid has nothing in their room except a book, not even the Bible, just take the Bible away and put a book about something, whether it's about physics or chemistry or a story about who knows what, they will, if they're forced, they will find a way to get out of their head and read something and feed their minds. Give them a dictionary. Put them in a room and give them a dictionary. And give them paper and have them write out whatever they want. I mean, that's training. That is seriously training the brain to expand its potential. And words are chemistry. They develop worlds. So when you look on the Facebook and look on the internet and YouTube, what are you feeding your brain, people? What are you feeding your children's brain? And are you full of fucking demons? How much trauma do you have in your body, mind, and spirit? How much trauma do you need to release? Yes, again, children are great. They're cute. Oh, let me say they're all cute, but will they survive your traditions, mom and dad, of herbs and extracts and ivermectin and detoxes and food mitigation? Are they lacking in bone density? Are they lacking in nutrition? Do you even know? Do you even care? Or are your kids just another extension of your marketing line, giving you credibility for whatever influencing you're doing? Are you exploiting your children, people? Are you exploiting yourself? I don't know. Those are the questions you need to ask yourself. Bye.